Okay, so cornering today. So let's start off with a nice simple left-hand bend. This is the position that we wouldn't want to be in. But let's have a look at our exit point. Where we want to be on the way out is over by the white line, dominating our side of the road. So that's our exit point. So we will start actually out by the white line for the left-hander. So we get the earliest visibility possible. So we follow this white line until we can see our exit point. Then what we'll see is that we draw an imaginary line back from the exit point across the apex to see where that interconnects with the line that we're on. And at the point where the imaginary line intersects with where we are, we use positive countersteer and turn in at this point to come across the apex straight to our exit point. Now we do have the option of staying out by the white line, but doing it in this way we actually make the most progress. And that line is perfectly possible using positive countersteer. Okay, let's have a look at a series of linked bends. So on this one we can see curb to curb. So we've been in the position for a left-hand bend. And we know our exit is right at the top of the page here. There we go, that's where we want to end up. Because we can see through, assuming it's clear, again we draw an imaginary line from the exit point back to our entry position. There's no apex in this case, we can see straight through the bends. We follow that straight line back, that's the route we're going to take. Notice that the white lines are hazard lines, the long wide stripes with the short gaps, and that's because of the hazard from the bends. Not a solid white line, so we can go straight through. Obviously if something comes the other way we move back. So these are linked bends where we can't see all the way through curb to curb. So we're going to stick to our side of the road in this occasion. We'll just mark our final exit at the top of the page there. So we're coming in for what is a right-hand bend initially. Now we're going to assume we can see across, so we know where our final exit point is. We know that we've got a right. After this we have the left-hand bend. So for the left-hand bend we're going to be out by the white line. And again we're going to draw an imaginary line from the exit point through the apex, and where that intersects with the line we're taking, that's where we put on the countersteer and turn in. So the entry point for that bend is actually the exit point of the first bend. So we need to decide where we want to be to get onto that line. So that's the point we want to get to line us up for the next bend. So again we're going to do what we did before, using that new exit point for the right-hander, and dot a line back, across the apex, straight line, and where it intersects with the line we're on, that's where we turn in. The countersteer goes on there, turn in, over to our exit point, onto the entry line for the left-hander. Again, we could stay all the way out to the curb, all the way around, and smoothly and slowly come back over for the left-hander, so coming back over to the white line. But for progress, this is the quickest way through the bend. And with no leaning across into the offside lane for oncoming vehicles. So here we have the W curve. Actually it's a series of 1, 2, 3, 4 bends. So we start with the left-hander, then we've got a couple of link bends that we can see right through, and we can see curb to curb, and then another left-hander. So we see our exit point as soon as we're in a position to see through the bend. So we're saying out by the white line. Now we can see through, it's a series of link bends. We can straighten that up, go straight through, because we know we've got a left-hander after that, so our next entry point, the exit point for this series of bends, the entry point for the final left-hander, is actually by the white line. Follow that around, and again, when we know where our exit point is, we simply draw the imaginary line back across the apex, and where that intersects again is where we turn in. And in this case, actually quite early we can turn in, earlier than I first thought. So that's all the turning in points, the entry, identifying the exit, so we can't do this until we identify and see where the exit is, and then drawing that imaginary line back to our entry point as we get the turn in. Okay, let's have a look at a wide hairpin bend next then. So as we're looking at it, as we're coming from the left hand side there, so we'll say this is two left hand bends we can actually split it into. Now we could treat it as one long left hander and just stay out by the white line all the way around till we get to the final exit point. But what we'll show you here is just how we can actually make more progress by breaking it down into two left-handers. So again, as soon as we see the exit point, straight line cutting across the apex of the first corner, over to the white line, which is our exit point, because we know we're setting up for another left-hander after this. And then we do exactly the same again. We can see our exit point. As soon as we get round and can see that, we can clip the apex and go straight across to it. So you can see it's a shorter route than just staying out by the white line all the way round. This really is personal preference. In all riding, we just stay in our comfort zone, do what obviously we're comfortable with. So it's the first turn-in point, and another turn-in point, and then the final exit. So let's see what it looks like on the road. Okay, so here we go, out on the road. We've got a right-hand bend up ahead. Over to the left-hand side, looking for the exit point. Staying out to the left until we see it. We've got two lanes. See a left-hand bend coming up, so I want to be on the right-hand side for that. I've got my exit point. As soon as I see where I want to go straight over to it. Left-hand bend. Looking for the exit point. Can't see yet what's coming up after this. I'm staying out to the right. Now I want to go over to the left-hand lane. See a right-hand bend coming up, so my exit point was over on the left. Right, back to the classroom for a little bit. I'll just put up the diagrams again so you can see those as I'm talking through the theory in a little bit more detail. After which we'll get back out on the road and see what it's like in the real world. So the first part of the system is gathering all the information, taking that information in and using it and then giving information to other people. So in this case, position obviously very important. And the information we're going to get is to look at what we call the vanishing point. That's where the two curbs in the distance appear to meet. The left and right curb, just like a railway line, appear to meet. That's what we call the vanishing point. And if that seems to be moving away from us, it means the bend is opening out, and we can actually chase that down, providing there are no other hazards, such as signed junctions. If it's pretty static, then we've got a fairly static radius of the bend, and if we seem to be approaching it without it moving, then it would imply that the bend is actually tightening up, or there's dead ground on the bend that we can't see over and we need to ease off. But there are a lot more clues. We've got, like I say, the road signs marking bends, chevrons, the white lines themselves give a good indication. A solid white line would suggest there's more of a hazard, whereas the dotted hazard line simply implying that there is a hazard from the corners themselves. Now, whilst trees and hedges might actually block our visibility, we can actually get a very good indication from them of how sharp the bend is, or when there's a bend ahead, because we'll actually see those bending off to the left or right. So that gives us a nice early indication of which way the road is going. Same if we see buildings in the distance, because we're always keeping our viewpoint up as far ahead as we can. Then we'll know not only junctions, but we get an indication of which way the road will go as well. Same with hills as well. Generally on the country roads, the roads will follow around the bottom of the hill, or be winding up it, unlike the Roman roads, which would tend to go straight on. So once we've taken that information in, and we've got the right position, next thing we need to do is make sure we're in the right speed for the bend. So it's the old mantra of slow in, fast out. Because as we go through, the cornering forces will actually force us out to the outside of the bend. And we counter that with not only our lean angle, of course, but also using a little acceleration through the bend. So we don't want to be going at full speed into the bend and then accelerate so that we're actually going too fast and can lose control. So we slow down to correct speed for the bend before we get there for our entry. So we've got our entry speed. As we're moving across the apex to our exit, we just put a small amount of acceleration on, and once we reach the exit point we should be lined up for the next section of road where we can accelerate away. So we've taken the information, we've got our position, we've got the correct speed. Also, for that acceleration we need to be in the right gear. So now we've got information, position, speed, gear, and then finally acceleration to keep us on track. And that's basically the system: information, position, speed, gear, acceleration. And you may well hear this referred to as IPSCAR. Right, so much for the theory. Let's have some fun and get back out on the road. The best way to learn is to actually have somebody follow you, so an advanced instructor who can actually give you feedback and give you one or two of these things to concentrate on at a time so that you master those small manageable chunks, then move on to the next bit. So as you can see, there are no more driveways or houses. You move over to the left, all the way over to the left hand side. See my vanishing point is moving away from me, but there is a junction coming up, crossroads. What's that here? My exit point now is away from the junction on the left. So I'm not lining up for the next corner, I'm getting halfway between these two roads, left and right both clear. As soon as I'm past, I'm back over, entry position, I can go up a gear, I can cut this straight over to my entry point for the next corner. Just here, moving away from me, that vanishing point, and slowly over to the left, still in the right gear. Speed is good. As I come through, looking for my exit point, which is still on the left hand side for the next right hander. Now I've got a nice left and a right, so again the entry point for the left hander, so across the white line, through here. Yeah, we've got a slight kink in the white line that I don't need. Multiple bends and down to a 40. So moving away from the oncoming vehicle. Speed down to 40. Left hand bend, so I've got a tree leading over, got bushes bending round to the left. It's a nice gentle bend, watching, keeping away from the junctions. Moving over to the left hand side, keeping an eye on the driveway there, all the way over to the curb. Again, staying all the way out until I can see that exit. Once I see the exit, a straight line through the apex from there to here. Again, another right-hander, back up to the national. Don't get carried away, gotta have the right entry speed and accelerate through. A lot of right-handers here, that's why I'm staying out. Absolutely nothing to gain by cutting the apex there. Left-hand road is clear. Over to the right, away from the other vehicle. Line junction, right, left-hand bend. Crown of the road, keep away from the oncoming vehicle, back out to the crown,